Okay, right. Now I give you a full definition of what faith is at my current level of understanding. Faith is when you see the results but do not know how it works. Alright? Faith is when you do something without knowing how it works and get results that work. So faith is when you don't have any evidence of how what you're doing works, but you get a positive result from what you're doing. Yeah? So it is belief without evidence, and it works. Doctors don't know how the placebo effect works, but they can see that the results are there and it works. So there's no evidence of how it works, but there is results from the works. The Almighty works. Yeah? So the concept of the Almighty is like a coined phrase. Yeah? Every time I want to explain to you the Mandela effect, I have to say, do you know that moment when you see something but you remember it being different? Instead of saying that all the time, I could just say, do you know the Mandela effect? It's the same with the Almighty. Do you know the Almighty? That should conjure up visions of, do you know of that process that you do that produces results, but you don't know of any evidence of how it works? Instead of saying that all the time, we say, do you know the Almighty? Okay? So faith, I reiterate, is when you have no evidence of how the process works, but you have evidence that the process works. Those of us who have faith, we have evidence that having faith works, but we don't have any evidence of how it works. Okay? This is why it's valid. Okay? Anything that works is valid whether you know how it works or not. Alright? But do you know that process? Yeah? When you pray to the Most High, yeah, and a miracle happens. Has that ever worked? Yes. If it's worked, you don't need evidence of the Almighty. All you know is that it works. When you pray to the Almighty, a positive result or a miracle happens. You know that that works. You don't have evidence of how it happens, but you know it works. It's like a placebo. Yeah, but you're not going to call the Almighty the placebo effect. You could do, it's up to you. But that's the Almighty's works. Yeah? So, that's the finality that I wanted to add to this topic. Because when my faith has never been shaken, but people come up with arguments and I'm compelled to rebuttal them. But I never go on an atheist channel and talk to them. Whenever I have something, whenever I listen to atheists, because sometimes you get some good ideas from them. They're misguided, but you get some good ideas. Because if you think about it, the circumference of the side that's heads and the circumference of the side that's tails on a coin, yeah, both exist on the thickness side of the coin. Yeah, the thickness of it. Yeah. So when it lands square, yeah, both the circumferences are there. So both heads and tails are there at the same time. Yeah. So I know that if we use the scientific method, science tells us that regarding the existence of the Almighty, the answer is, I don't know. And I don't know tells us that both atheism and theism are correct. How could both of them be correct? That's because when you know of how the Almighty works, it won't work for you. So you have to not know how the Almighty works for it to work for you. Yeah, you just got to have faith that it works, whatever it's doing, and it works for you. So I realized Yahweh, yeah, accidentally, yeah. So then I realized that whatever he's been doing for me works. So I'm not gonna go into his nature of how he does it. I tried not to know how he does it, or not to occupy my thoughts with how he does it. But whatever he's been doing works. If I am the one who has inspired you to understand the Almighty better, then I still say to you, there's no way you could have got to that understanding without Christ. Because I'm from a Christian background, and I sought the guidance from Jesus, from Christ, yeah, and I ended up with Yahweh, and that's how I got to understand what I understand. And when I thought about the fact that Yahweh was guiding me with that when I didn't even know, yeah, and all the healing I've got, yeah, he must have been playing a part to it, because I don't know how I heal. I just know I heal, yeah, and I never bother thinking about Yahweh as well. And I also, from realizing that, I also realized the contradictions that were put into the scripture by people just loving their culture. So by realizing Yahweh personally, I can then start to read scripture, and then I know what was put there because people were promoting their culture, and what was put there because it was an actual word from Yahweh, from my own personal experience. If what I've experienced is there, I know that that's true, yeah, because I've experienced it, yeah. So that's how I decipher what's bullshit and what's true. And the reason why atheists are doing so well, because the same people that put in the lies in scripture are the ones who are telling you that it's a lie. They're the ones who added in that concept that Christ is the Most High, and now they're the ones who are telling you it's a lie. They know it's a lie because they know they added it in artificially. Christ himself will tell you that you pray to our Father, you bring the Almighty into your life. You don't bring him into your life, you bring the Almighty into your life. But they'll tell you to bring Christ into your life. So it's useful to seek guidance from Christ, of course. Yeah, you must seek guidance from Christ in order to bring the Almighty into your life. So they go halfway. You seek guidance from Christ to bring the Almighty into your life. You don't bring Christ into your life and that's it, with the aim of bringing the Almighty into your life. So I reiterate, faith is when you know something works, but you don't know how it works. Yeah.